Great. So in this section, I'm going to look at for interpretation of financial statements, commonly called ratios. I'll tell you why we call it ratios. The actual name is what? Interpretation of financial statement. Interpretation of what? Financial statement, FS. That's all. That is the full name or the actual name of the topic. Interpretation of financial statements. So we should take note of that. Interpretation of financial statements. Now look at why a lot of people call it what the ratios. We will look at that. Interpretation of financial statements. Now, interpretation simply means we are going to provide meaning to the financial statement to reflect the performance of the entity. That is all. Now, we'll give you a set of financial statements and tell us the meaning to reflect the performance of what? The entity, their performance. That is all. So this interpretation is about what? Performance analysis. And at the end of the day, if you're able to measure the performance very well, it's for decision making. Decision making. So third examiner, the end result of ratio is for decision. For instance, a foreign investor hits up in your country and have some two companies, A and B. He have no idea about what? Finance. So he saw you and asked you to have about 10 million US dollars to invest in these two companies. Which of them should I go in for? So relax. Let me analyze their performance. Get me their current financial statements. Let me analyze their performance, and then we make a decision on which of these two companies we should invest in. Another area of the decision making. Maybe you are the finance director of, let's say, your company. That's company A. They intend to acquire company B, and they've asked you to appraise the company B and see whether they are trading well, their current performance. Basically, there are so many needs of what? The financial statement interpretation. Okay. Now that we know that financial statement interpretation is just about we interpreting what? Financial statement to give what? The true performance and meaning for decision making. Let us see. There are so many tools to perform this. There are so many tools. Usually we call this subject or this topic by one of the tools. Now, the first method or the tools in which we can use to provide the interpretation or the analysis, we call it let me use the common name. We call it common size or vertical analysis. Vertical what? Analysis. So it is common size or vertical analysis. So common size or vertical analysis. Then second, we use what we call trend analysis. Trend analysis, or also call it horizontal analysis. Let's write horizontal first. Horizontal or trend analysis. So let me write analysis here. Analysis. Finally, MIT ratio analysis. So now there are three ways in which we can analyze the company's financial statements to provide what? Meaning. So either we go by common size, horizontal, or ratio analysis. The most common one, even though this one is a common size, it's not a common one. It's a ratio. That is why most of them call this topic ratio analysis. It's never true. The actual topic is for interpretation. So the one way to provide the interpretation is what? Using the ratio analysis. That is all, using the ratio. So quickly, I will scan through all these three today, but honestly speaking, might not be able to finish everything. But don't worry, there are recorded videos from the previous lectures that will be very helpful. So you go through them to finish. If there's any question, I'll still on standby to answer all of them before I take it up. So let's start with the common size of vertical analysis. Common size. So I'll talk about them one after the other. So let me think of this. Common size. As the name suggests, common size. Now, common size meaning that expressing each of the items in the financial statement as a percentage of a common base. That is all. Common size simple means just express all. Don't even leave one. All the items in the financial statement as a percentage, no shortcut to, as a percentage of a common base. A common base. That is all. As a percentage of what? Common base. So you should know the common base for the financial statement. Every financial statement and its own common base. So if you pick each and every item, just divide it by the base and multiply by 100. That is all, and put it there. So we'll give critical example, and I'll list all the common base that we know. In the financial statement, we have about 5, but as of now, we have a common base for 4. Good. The 5th financial statement does not have more calculation or more quantitative analysis. Okay, so let's see. Every financial statement and it was common base, and basically we are done. So let's do something in here. With the financial statements, I write the financial statements here, then I'll put a common base at the other side for you. So financial statement, common base. So let's see. Let's start. I'll give you 4 financial statements. So if you take statement of profit or loss, so profit and loss, the P&L, the common base is what? Sales revenue. Sales revenue. Meaning that if you pick all the items in the P&L divided by sales times 100, that is all. All the items from the very first item to the very last one, divide all the items in the sales, in the profit and loss statement by the sales revenue. That is all. So that is why we also call it vertical analysis, because the structure look like a vertical shape or vertical line, because you start from sales revenue, go to cost of sales in that order, basically, then you are done. Okay. Then let's move on to the next. The next one is statement of financial position, the balance sheet. The common size is total assets. Total what? Assets. So you pick all the items one after the other and divide by what? Total assets. Please and please again. In fact, it includes the common size itself. So if you are starting sales, if I see 100%, meaning that that's the common size. But if you pick sales to be sales over sales times 100, you get 100, and you put it in. Then let's move on to the common size of statement of changes in equity. So changes in equity. Changes in equity. So what is the common size? Now, because all the items in the changes in equity, we reflect them in what the financial position also use total assets. How do we get it? Total assets. So basically, so changes in equity. Let's go to that of cash flow. So statement of cash flow. Statement of cash flow. With a statement of cash flow, here it's a bit dicey. So take note, what will be the common side for cash flow? Cash flow, there are two common sides here. That is total cash inflow or total cash outflow. So total cash inflow or total cash outflow. That's all, we are done. Now, there's something called a common size financial statement. Common size financial statement. When you talk about common size financial statement, it's a typical financial statement prepared in the form of what percentages. So after you strike your percentages, it will give you what you call common size financial statement. That is all. So the normal P&L convert it to your common size. Perfect. So I'll pick quickly one of them and then prepare the common size financial statement. We'll look at the report later. So let's see. So let's go through our material and see if we can look out for any question at all. Good. Great. Now taking a question like this. Peace Limited. As newly employed accountant of Peace Limited, you have been presented with the financial statement as follows. So these are the financial statements. Statement of comprehensive income for the year ended 31st December 2011 and 12. They are there. Statement of income surplus, all the 2 years, they're also there. Statement of financial position, all the 2 years, they're also there. Now, I'm changing the requirement to, we are required to prepare a common size financial statement. Common size financial statement, meaning I need a common size comprehensive income, common size income surplus, and common size what? Common size financial position. That is all good. So that is what you are going to look at for. So I'll just give you the structure, you complete it for me, and then I'll walk you through how to provide the analysis. So let's go to the board. Now, in preparing common size financial statement, must also follow what? The rule. What is the rule? The 3 protocols. It must follow 1, the name of the company, and then 2, the heading, and then 3, the reporting currency. But over here, you are not reporting in cities, you are reporting in what? Percentages. If it is 1 year, clap for the examiner and go. That one is sent to what you call descriptive essay. If it's 2 years, that one becomes proper analysis. So let's see something. So first of all, write Peace Limited here. Peace Limited. And I like 3 protocols. I'll start. Common size statement of comprehensive income. Comprehensive income. And for the years ended the end of 2012 and 2011. Good. Common size financial statements are not too difficult, they are straightforward. So you should understand it into detail. Depending on your examination body, the one that they will probably select for you. Now, it's in percentages, so percentages can run to 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places, and then you move on. Then you go to the question. Quickly, let's go to the question. Now, how they have arranged it, don't change any of the arrangements. How they have arranged it, line by line. Now, for comprehensive income, pick all the items and express as a percentage of what? Of sales. So you pick, starting from the sales itself. You pick the sales, you divide it by the sales itself, times 100. So the first, I'll get sales, but they call it net turnover. So that's the net sales. So I'll start from net turnover. Net turnover. Yeah, I'll get 100. I'll get 100. That suggests that that is the base. Please, to avoid trouble, do one when I'm done before you do the other because the base will confuse you. Don't say that you are going to do the 2 years at the same time. Do one. For instance, if I do 2012, finish 2012 first, because the base is 456,500. But 2011, the base is 420,000. This gets not taken, I mix the base out. So you go to cost of sales. From net sales, you go to cost of sales. So I do the same thing. I go to cost of sales. Cost of what? Sales. Now to pick the cost of sales divided by what? The sales times what? 100. So you fill this up to antipart, you end at antipart or the last figure. If there's comprehensive income, to do the same thing.
We can just type the solutions for much work.
Here we don't need any workings. This calculation, you don't need workings because the formula is the same throughout. It's just one formula. The item that you are looking for, all divided by sales, times 100. So the formula is 1. So we don't need the workings. Over here, we don't need the workings. Just fit in and throw it for us, and then we are done. So that is a common size of comprehensive income. After preparing it, they need to prepare all the analysis. We'll write the reports later. We'll gather all the report and then we will look at it. So that is how the common size analysis look like. So now, you realize that most of the costs are going high. And it tells you that this organization, their performance is below average or acceptable level because if your cost of sales is as a percentage to sales is more. For instance, you calculate and get, let's say,
65%.
Yeah, 65. So meaning that more than half of the sales is in what cost of sales. More than what? Half of the sales is in the cost of sales. So meaning for every 100 Ghana cedis you make, it costs you 65 cedis.
I have a question.
Good.
Yeah, it was negative. So the percent.
But the issue of negative, this one, the cost of sales is negative, right? So can I put the cost of sales into brackets? Put it in brackets. So you get the gross profit, right? So if they are subtracting, can you subtract? This one is a financial statement you are preparing. Yes, that is what you are paying in terms of percentages. Yes, no monetary values, but you are using percentages. So here, if the cost of sales is 65, then I said that gross profit to present what? 35. Because if you do the calculation, you should get 35. How do you get it? Good. In that order. So you fill this column up to the very last one, and that is the end of the game. When you go to financial position, to the same thing. For financial position, you take the total asset. At the question solving stage, we'll pick a complete question and then look through using all the methods, all the 3 methods, and then you are done. Okay. So let's see. So you do this to complete every item, but if there was sometimes some of the questions you see dividend paid as the income support sections to be added to the income statement or the comprehensive income. Can we end at the profit after tax or the total comprehensive income? Good. I'll go to financial position. So financial position to the same thing. You write the heading, the name of the company, and then instead of you writing currency is there, you put percentage there. So I'm reporting percentages. Good. You start as if like when they move, you move. They wrote asset, you write asset. Write goodwill. I express the goodwill as a percentage of what the total assets, 369,000, all of them. Any figure you pick, please divide it by what? 369. So go down again, including the liabilities, including equity. If I pick the account payable, 37,500, I have to divide it by 369 in that order, including the total equity and liabilities. Okay, so that is how we prepare what? A common size financial statement. Right after the financial statement, we prepare the way to prepare what you call a common size analysis. Now it means that when the examiner goes straight for the ask you, write a common size analysis from the above, then it means that you need to prepare the common size financial statement first before you base on it to write what? Your analysis. So take note when they ask you the analysis straightforward. Okay. Now let's continue the game. The next one that you're going to look out for is the, I hope you understand why it's vertical. That one goes like this. Good. Go like this. That's why it's vertical. Now, the next one is horizontal analysis or trend analysis. Trend analysis. Trend or horizontal analysis. Trend or horizontal analysis. Okay, as the name suggests, here we are interested in changes in the company's performance over time, comparing the same company's results over time. So it's not like this. Maybe 2020 financial statement compared to 2020, 2019, 2018, downwards. So that's the trend analysis. Now you are comparing changes in the values. That is all. Comparing changes in the values. So 2020, 2019, 2018. That is the trend analysis. As the name suggests, have you seen how that one goes like this? So that's what? Horizontal. That one, you need 2 years, 2 or more. If it's 1 year, you cannot compare, you cannot obtain the trend from just one figure. You need the changes before you can be able to compare. So with trend analysis, we are just comparing this, the company's result or the same company's result over time, from period to period, and obtain trend. So this analysis, we are just compare the company results over time to obtain what? Trend. So the same thing, you also before write your exam paper, can you put at least 5 years papers down, mark the topics, and note the trend. That this one appeared here, it appeared here, it came here. Okay, so that's a trend. Every 2 sittings, it must visit us. Every 2 sittings, it must come. Some of them 2, every sitting must be there, so that you know the trend. How we get it? Good. So that is it. So basically, that is all. And I want to, we need to also prepare what you call changes in the value. So we also have to prepare the changes or calculation of the percentage change. So trend values or percentage change. So I will the same question. Good. So in that case, we also have to prepare exchanges. We will start like this. Percentage change. So if it is comprehensive income, we start the comprehensive income first. So comprehensive income. Just that in this particular scenario, if they've given you 2012 and 2011, you can only get one. How we get it? You can't get for 2011. You can only get percentage for 2012. Only one. So in such questions, The examiner makes sure they'll give like, let's say 3 years, 4 years, so they can get a lot of trend values. So quickly, solving for this, how do you calculate the percentage change? It's equal to new minus old, or divided by old times 100. So to get a percentage change, so it's equal to the new minus old, or divided by old times 100. That is all. Here too, you express them as percentages. And here, if it is negative, just attach the negative to it. If it is positive, attach the positive sign to it. Then that is all. Negative means, in fact, depending on the amount that you are looking after, you can determine whether it's positive, whether it's like a good performance or a bad performance. Both, depending on the item that you are looking for. So if I should look through this question, I'll go straight. Comprehensive income, 2012. I'll start from the turnover. So they say net turnover. Net turnover. Okay. Now the new one is 2012 happened to be 456,500, right? Minus the 2011, which is 420,000, right? All divided by 420,000 times what? 100. So times 100. Then we put the answer in. Basically, dash for 2011. You can't get for 2011. The answer, you put it in. And write a percentage here. If it is positive, write positive. Just write, leave the figure like that, in that order. And basically, you are done. So that is how we are going to calculate for the change in the trend values. And then right after that, we down to prepare analysis. If you're the type that all your costs are increasing and your revenues are also decreasing, then there's a danger. So that's how you're going to use to analyze the company's performance. We're going to use their trend. If your revenue is going high, cost is going down, then there's a good news. If there's a balances or there's certain issues like your revenue is going down, cost is also going down, that's good news. Even though revenue is going down, it compensates, or the cost, like it pushes the cost down, that's a bit okay. Then your cost to go high, revenue going down, terrible scenario. Good. So basically, this is how I'm going to find. Now we are just providing a tutorial base. When you start solving, or when you start solving questions, you come across all these things and you find. Okay, so basically, that is the trend or horizontal analysis. You do for all of them after profit after tax. And then you start with the analysis. In the other section, I explained the important section that you need to write the report on, because the financial statement is very lengthy. It's not every item I need to talk about. The important ones, I think I need them. I'll make those videos available for you to write a report on. Now we are just learning how this one's about, or how we should go by them. Okay. Now the third one, almighty ratio, right? Almighty ratio analysis. The third one is the ratio analysis. Now all these three, you should know they are important, and then they are disadvantage. Any challenge that about this method, so can look through common side, what will be the good news, what will be the limitations. All these three, in fact, all of them have their own good news and their own bad news, so you should know some few of them. So ratio analysis. Now when you talk about ratio analysis, the word ratio to a mathematician simply means something divided by something, a number divided by something. Good. That is all. Now in finance or the financial statement analysis, ratio, we are going to calculate or compare some figure to figure, divide some number to number, and see. When you compare two values together and combine them, they will be able to tell us or review the actual performance of this company. That is the ratio analysis. Good. Now, for ratio analysis, we should know one, the importance. or the uses. And then 2, the limitation. Yes, you should know this another ratio analysis. I'll probably walk you through all of them for ratio analysis. Good. So let's start with the importance and the uses of ratio analysis. So the first one will say that ratios help us to interpret or analyze the company's financial statement, analyze the company's performance. That's basically the first one that we will talk about. Ratios help us to analyze the companies or even compare performance of companies. Good. Now, if you know the types of ratios that we have, you can just bring them on board. Ratios help you to analyze the profitability. So specific uses are important. Help us to analyze what? The profitability of a firm. Number 2, to assess the liquidity. But because then it's just a type of ratio. I'm not saying anything. Number 3, ratio help us to assess the risk facing organization. There are 2 types. All of the ratio revealed to us. Number 1, operating risk. So operating risk and operating efficiency. So ratio helps to review the operating risk and then efficiency of the organization. Again, ratio also helps us to analyze or assess the financial risk. Financial risk. Good. Financial risk. And then finally, ratios can also help us to make a decision. So for decision making, like the example that I gave, Mr. Boga enters the country with a lot of money for investment, and I've asked which of the company or the banks must invest his money. So we perform the analysis based on the ratio, you make a decision. That is all. There are so many areas or other. All of them have been provided in the previous material. But today's one, just for a summary for you to appreciate the interpretation of financial statement. That is all. So now I'll start with some few challenges of ratio analysis. Yes, it comes with some challenges or limitations. I'll give you like 3 or 4, and you look at the other areas. So challenges or limitations of ratio analysis. The limitations of the ratio analysis. Number 1, as the name suggests, we are analyzing financial statements. Okay. So the information provided is about financial statements. So we are analyzing what? Financial information. So that means ratio fails to what? Incorporate non-financial information. So it does not consider a non-financial sort of organization. So that examiner, it does not what? Consider the non-financial information about the company or non-financial aspects of the organization. Of the company. And so because you are analyzing the ratio you are going to calculate our financial statement, non-financial aspect, for example, employee morale, motivation, product quality, all of these the ratio will not review. And if you don't take this non-financial aspect into consideration, any decision that you make, forget it. Good customer service, customer satisfaction, all these ratios will not be able to review. So at the end of the day, this ratio analysis is limited because it gives one way, one side interpretation. Good. Now let's move on to the next point. Now the ratio on their own, they are limited, or on their own, it's meaningless unless we compare to other ratios. So ratios on their own is what? Meaninless, or does not represent anything. I can just tell the examiner that ratios on their own it's meaninless unless it's being compared to what? Other ratios. Point number 3, you can also tell the examiner that in fact these ratios, tell me, what are you interpreting the financial statements? Let's say currently 2020 financial statements is in, right? So if 2020 financial statement is ready and then we are providing interpretation to it, so that doesn't mean that currently we are around April, right? Okay, so we are around April. That doesn't mean that April financial statement, sorry, the 2020 financial statement being interpreted, like review in 2021 April, things are also the same as the last year. No. So basically, it tells us that this ratio analysis give us what? Like a past. This analysis is based on historical figures. So it poses a challenge. It failed. It does not help us to predict the future because whatever we are analyzing is for the past. It's not for present. It's for the past. We cannot use the past to make predictions. Good. The ratios does not give information or a current performance of the organization. It does not review the current performance because tell me the financial statement you are using. Always compare the last year date or previous year date. Good. So it does not help you to predict or does not even help you to analyze the current performance and then use it to predict the future. So that's the challenge that we have with the ratios. Good. And then ratios to basically does not take into the consideration the size or the operating capacity of the entity. It does not know that, oh, this company has been operating for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. We don't consider that at all. At least consider our age small for us to give us a nice interpretation. My ratio does not consider that. Consider your actual performance. So basically, that's a few limitations. If you get a material, get an old lecture video. I think I explained about 7 important and 5 interpretation, making 12 points. You know all of this because it's an examinable point for most examiners. So take a look. Now let's go to the actual game. Now when you pick ratios, or when you pick the interpretation, you should know the calculation and then the analysis. Analysis about the report or the memo or the briefing paper that's been writing. So any interpretation question come with calculation and what? The analysis or the report. So take note of it. Now, when you take the ratio, if I should ask you to have maybe friends, 2 of them, one is like this. Yes. 2 friends, one is like this. And 1, 2 is like this. Yes, these are your friends. So these are okay. Now, tell me these 2 friends, friend A and friend B, which of them will be very good if they are your friends? Now, you can't tell me that friend A is far better than friend B or friend B is very bad than friend A. No, we don't have something like that. Tell me that, oh, in terms of height, seems like this guy is a bit advanced than this. Well, in terms of arms, this guy has arms. But in terms of 5 plus 2, this guy is a bit heavy than this guy. In terms of, let's say, legs, this guy has heavy legs than this guy. This guy also have a thin leg. In terms of head, this one have a coconut head. This also have what? Watermelon head. That is all. So the same thing in ratio. Ratio, we don't have one particular company performing well. So what we can do is that we can group them into head, into maybe height, maybe into thickness, and then the size maybe your leg. That's all. So with ratio, we have grouped the organization's activity into five. First one, in terms of what? Profitability. Profitability, you might be good. In terms of profitability, you might be good. But liquidity, you're not performing. Liquidity. Then, activity or efficiency, you're not doing well. Then, investor. Then, finally, we have what you call the leverage or the gearing. So let me group them for you here. So we have the key ratios. Key ratios. So they are number one, we call it operating performance. So ratios that talks about operating performance, popularly known as profitability ratio. Profitability or ratios. These ratios basically analyze your performance, your operating performance. Yes, how you can generate what revenue and then convert this revenue into what profit. Some company can make huge revenue, but look at their profit there, too small, meaning that that company is not able to what convert these sales into profit. If you can convert sales into profit, then in fact you do well. You have a good operating stand. Then number two, liquidity. We call it liquidity or short-term solvency. That is all. Liquidity or what? Short-term solvency. So here we are just going to analyze whether you can be able to what? Handle your short-term debt as and when they fall due. Whether you be solvent in short run. Some companies, they can get high profits, but when it comes to paying off their debts, in fact, paying out their short-term debt become challenging. So that is what you are looking for. Even if you are there and a supplier works to you that, hello, Mr. Accountant, I want to supply some goods, or this company have asked me to supply some goods to them. Should I go ahead and supply to them? Tell the man, relax, bring their financial statement. Let's analyze. Check their solvency, their liquidity. Whether these people, if you owe them short while, they can be able to pay you or handle the short term debt as when they fall due. That is the liquidity ratio, what it's talking about in general. Then we go to number three. Number three talks about your activity or efficiency ratio. So, that examiner, number three talks about what? Your activity or efficiency. Efficiency ratio. Then the fourth one, continue. So let's begin this side and the fourth one there. Now the fourth one, quoted examiner, that market position. Market position or investor ratio. Talks about investment. And the last one, number five. Number five. That one we talk about gearing. Gearing or leverage. Leverage ratios. Or we call it long-term solvency. Long-term solvency. I also call it long-term stability. How the company will be stable for long term. So some company, in fact, the moment they introduce debt to their balance sheets, that company will be shaking. Anytime they pay the loan, the interest, or they pay part of the loan, so that they can't even pay their workers. Good. So that is that. Now, it is your duty to know the individual ratios that fall under this. and then there are formulas and how to provide the interpretation. So basically, that is all. So in exams, two things will happen. Definitely, you are going to write a report and explaining the performance of the company using these key areas. The most or the highly examinable tool to provide interpretation of financial statements is what the ratios. No wonder most often we call it what ratios instead of what interpretation of financial statements. Great. Here you should know two items. That is all. One, how to calculate, and two, the analysis or the interpretation. The analysis or the interpretation. Basically, that is what we should look out for. That is all. So let's see how best we can look at this. Great. So let's quickly go through one after the other. We're going to start of all the key ratios. There's no company that all these 5 ratios they are doing well. No, do not happen. So not at all. And there's no company that all these 5 is bad. No. At least you need to sacrifice some section for some other. For instance, profitability and liquidity. You cannot achieve the two. But if you have a good working capital management policy, oh, why not? You can achieve little of this combined together, you are done. So let's have the profitability ratios. Now, profitability ratios. Everything you need to know about profitability ratios. Because the examiner asks you what is the use of ratios or importance of ratios, and then you have no idea. Don't worry. I've written all the 5 key ratios. They are the uses of ratios or importance of ratios. So number 1, help to analyze profitability of the entity. Number 2, liquidity. Number 3, efficiency. Number 4, in fact, help us know the market position of the entity. And then finally, to assess the gearing level or the risks of financial risk facing the entity. That is all good. So profitability ratios. Now these ratios basically talks about the ability of the organization to generate what? Revenue, enough revenues. Generate enough revenue, and ability to generate enough revenue and what? Convert it into what? Into profit, which will be retained or distribute to what? The owners by way of what? Dividend. That is all. Or be distributed as what? Dividend to the shareholders. That is all. To the shareholders. You know, most shareholders or investors, they are interested in what? Company that pay what? Higher dividend. And most of it, you can pay higher dividend, you can also earn more. Good. So basically, that is it. Now, this company, your profitability ratio, or the operating performance. There's also operating performance. Good. This group of ratios help us analyze the operating performance of what? The entity. And again, profitability of an entity is said to be good if this entity can manage its operating costs. Manage it or what? So if this entity can manage, so profitability is said to be good. If the entity can what? Manage its operating costs efficiently. operating costs efficiently. Good. If you can manage your operating costs efficiently, then your profitability will be good. Whilst increasing what? Revenue. Whilst what? Increasing revenue. So if you have increased revenue, but if you manage your operating costs well, that's all. Like, you make sure that your profit has increased by 40%. That's perfect. But your operating costs also increased by what? 10%. That's a very good stand. As some companies, sales increased by 40, right? And the cost also increased by 50%. While sales is 40, cost has increased. So like the little that they earn, they spend more than the little increase, they spend more. So such a company, in fact, your profitability operating performance is down. So that is the analysis. If I want to explain or I want to write about the profitability, let this wording should be first in there, that the profitability talks about the ability of this company to generate enough revenue and again convert this into what? Profit. Oh, it's said to be good if this guy can manage it to what? Operating costs well, whilst increasing what? Its revenue. And it's all. Some organization, they can increase the revenue. The little increase in revenue will cause a higher increase in what? Cost. Such company, the operating performance is quite bad. That is all. Now let's go to the specific ratio. There are some group of ratios that form what? The profitability or the operating performance. The operating performance. Let's look at them. There are many, but we have summarized them. About 5 of them. 5 common ones. Now one. In fact, we have the margins and returns. That's all. The only two. Margins and returns. The margins are 3, returns are 2. That's what making 5. So let's start with the margins. That's what we call gross profit margin. Gross profit what? Margin. Anything margin is that item over sales times what? 100. So that's all. Anything margin. So gross profit margin is what with the formula. So the formula will be the GP, the gross profit over sales times what? 100. That is all. Now this one, it analyzes the organization's direct trading. Organization's what? Direct trading. That is direct what? Trading. If you are going to explain gross profit margin for direct trading, your earnings from where? Direct trading. Good. And the organization should earn more before any expenses or before the operating expense will be subtracted. Your direct trading should give you more. And again, in explaining this, organization will have a good direct trading activity or performance, will perform well in its direct trading if and only if you can manage it with production cost. If you can manage what? Your production or production cost or your cost of what? Sales. Cost of sales. Your cost of sales. That is all. So any organization that can manage its production cost or the cost of sales, you are fine. The cost of sales. For gross profit, we've not subtracted all the expenses yet. So here, to increase it or to manage it, check the cost of sales. Efficient what? Cost control techniques. So due to what? Efficient cost control techniques. So the organization should put in place efficient what? Cost control techniques, and then to ensure that the production cost is being minimized. And that is all. So that's all for gross profit. Here, the higher the better, the reverse is true. If the percentage is going high, that means the company that is also going what? High. And that's good. So the higher, the better, the reverse is true. If you're doing the comparisons, the one that will have high, the more it's going high, the more it will, in fact, your operating performance is also going high. That is all. So tell the examiner that as this one increasing, the organization profitability is also what increasing. That is all. Let's go to the next ratio under this. For the next ratio under profitability, we are still under the margin. We have what we call operating profit margin. Operating profit margin. Operating profit margin. Operating profit margin. Now, with operating profit margin, I didn't suggest. This one talks about organizations' operating income, the controllable profits, profit that they have direct control. Good. You're interested in the profit that the organization have what? Direct control. For instance, this is trading, and this is what? For operating profit. So this one add that sections to the trading. Good. Over here, the formula is equal to anything margin. That item over what? Over the sales times 100. Perfect. Now, it means that you're operating profit, right? The operating profit, the one that we're interested in is what? Profit before interest and tax. Take note of this. It is profit before what? Interest and tax over sales. Times what? 100. Here we are interested in what you call controllable profit. If it's operating profit, it's a controllable profit. And the profit that the organization can control is the profit before interest and tax. You can't control the interest. It's fixed. The person giving the money is asking you to pay 10%. You can't change it. Income tax, forget it, you can't change it. You don't have control over your tax. So the profit that you have control is the one that before interest and tax. Perfect. And that is all. Here, the higher the better. All the profitability ratios, the higher the better, the reverse is what? True. Perfect. Interpreting this one too, you have to also look out for the operating cost of the organization. Here, it must move in line with the gross profit. If I go into detail, why? Now, when you get your gross profit, what do you less? You less what? Your operating expenses before you get this operating profit. Now, the issue is this. These operating expenses that you less, usually, it's made up of what? Fixed cost. That's the fixed cost, organization's fixed cost. So we are saying that ideally, it should move in line with what? The gross profit. If the gross profit increases, the operating profit must also what? Increase, because the items that make up the operating cost are what? Fixed. And they are in line with the gross profit. That is all. So that is the interpretation of what? Operating profit margin, basically. Then we go to number 3, the third margin. As the name suggests, net profit margin. Net profit margin. Net profit margin. With the net profit margin, that one we're interested in the net profit, net of all forms of expenses. So that is equal to antipart, that's the profit after tax, all over sales times 100. How we get it? All over sales times 100. That's the net profit margin. This talks about the overall profits, like the overall profit. Overall profit. This usually have to move in line with operating profit margin. Why? Because the items that make the makes the net profit due, or the expense that we subtract from the operating profit before we have the profit after tax is also fixed. Interest is fixed. Good. Usually, unless otherwise stated. That is all. So basically, that is that. Now we are done with the margin. You can also have what you call markup. So take notes. Once you have margin, you can also have markup. That can also give you gross profit markup. Operating profit markup, net profit markup. Markup is on cost. So that one, the formula becomes the item or cost of what? Sales times 100. So if I'm looking for, let's say, gross profit markup to become the gross profit over what? Cost of sales times what? 100. That is all. And the most popular one, profitability, the most popular one is what? The margin. That does not mean that the examiner cannot change the trend. For professional examiners, they can change the trend. When you see markup there and say, what's profit markup? Operating profit markup. This one there, I know margin. Then we go to the returns. Now let's go to the returns. The returns are only two. Look at two of the returns. So 3 margins versus 2 returns make the operating profit. So number 4 is we have what you call return on capital employed. Receive. Return on capital employed. Return on capital employed. In fact, this ratio, you should understand every part of this ratio. I'll walk you through, in fact, the genesis of this ratio. At least where you're coming from. We are coming from margins. Margin talks about your how you generate profit. And return talks about how you distribute it back to what? The owners. Those that have provide capital, so we say capital employed, equity and what? Debt. Equity and debt holders. Those have given us money to trade. Those people need to go and compensate them heavily. That is their return. How we get it. So this section talks about their return. You know, as a company, when we earn the profit, the margin or the markup, we have to also give some part as return to those that provide the finance. How we get it. So that's that section. All of this determine our operating performance. Good. So that is it. When you mention capital employed, it's nothing but what? Equity plus debt. That's all. The debt, you're invested in what? Non-current liability. Non-current debt. Long-term debt. Not the current liability. So return on equity and debt. That's the meaning of what? Return on what? Capital employed. Now I will start with a basic formula and improve it and go to the advanced section. Good. Let's start from the basic formula. Now, in basic terms, layman's understanding, if you ask me to give you the form of finding return on capital employed, would I write return over capital employed? Oh, is that return on capital employed, right? Good. Would I write something like that? Would I write something like that? I write something like this: return over what? Capital that you have employed. That is all times 100. That's the basic formula. So anytime the examiner asks you to calculate or receive, the basic formula that you can manage what? Return on the capital that you've employed. However, there are several types of return. There are several types of what? Capital that you can employ. So the capital that you have employed should equate your return. So you cannot plant, let's say, coconut and expect mango. The same thing. You can't plant like a pepper and expect to have tomato at the end of the day. No, it never happened. So the capital that you have employed, capital that you've invested, should tell us the return we should give it to you. You can't come and buy shares and at the end of the day you are expecting interest. It cannot happen. If I buy shares, wait, when we declare dividend, give your portion to you, then we move on. So basically, that is it. So we even have a second version of this formula. Let's see. Now, there are so many types of return. As soon as you mention capital employed, we are basically without any demarcation. We are talking about two of the capital employed, which you have what? Equity and debt. So the word capital employed simply means equity plus what? Non-current liability or debt. Perfect. Now, if I mention equity and I mention non-current liability, tell me the return. What's the return on equity? Equity holders, what's the return? It's dividend. On the financial statement, their return is getting from the profit after tax. So they will take profit after tax, fine. These people do non-current liability, the debt holders, what their return is interest. So which of these profit is available to pay profit after tax, available to pay what? Interest. Which of these two, which of the profit or which of the return? So pick the return that is what? Available to pay the equity holders and available to also pay what? The debt holders. That gives us this formula. Good. Now what happened is this. The return which is available to pay these two people is called the profit before interest and tax. The profit before interest will pay the interest holders, and profit after the tax will pay what? That's the debt, or sorry, the equity holders. That is all. So basically, if I should now write the actual formula for the ROCE, return on capital that you have employed, is equal to. So now, the next line, you have to write this one there. Now it's equal to the profit before interest and tax, all over what? Equity plus what? Debt. Right, that's all. Or just the capital employed times 100. We'll go further. Equity plus debt is the same as net asset. The same as what? Net asset. So take note. For a net asset can be what? Total asset minus current liability. If you do the calculation, you get the same answer. Equity plus debt is equal to total, sorry, the net asset. So capital employed is the same as what? Net asset, basically, times 100. Now this one is a very important ratio. It's very important. It's very, very important. So you should know everything about it. And this one is a secondary ratio. You see, it's a secondary ratio. I will tell you the combination of receipt when probably I get to the other primary ratio. Good. And what happened is this. This receipt, the higher the better, lower VAT. Where the company perform, because if you pay your returns are very low, quite low, most companies or most investors will not invest in your company. So probably they'll take their funds away. So basically their funds must be good, must be suitable. Good. The funds must be suitable to them. Basically that is it. That's the formula. This one I'll provide a special interpretation on it because it's a very important one. I should know it. In the secondary ratio, means that if I combine two primary ratios together, I might get this. So there are two issues that increase the ROCE. Number one, your profit, that's your margin. Your margin. So before your ROCE will be good, two things or two factors should be in place. Number one, your margin. So before you can explain ROCE very well, make sure that margins are okay. Your margin is what? Your profit. That's your return, the top one. Again, you need to explain your net assets. Your net asset, that's the down one, right? Good. So efficiency, the net asset, how efficiently you are using your net asset. So ROCE depends on one, the profit that you can generate. Number two, how efficiently you can what? Utilize your asset. That's the ROCE, basically. So to be able to explain ROCE very well, don't forget these 2 points. Number one, your margin, the ability of the company to generate profit, which the margin that we're talking about. Number two, how the organization utilizes its resources. Efficient utilization of the organization's resources. That talks about your net asset. The organization, they have a lot of assets. But look at the turnover, it's very small. So organizations have little assets, but the turnover is what? Big. Such organization have a higher ROCE. That is all because that person can generate well, can generate high returns than that of the other company. That's the first show of ROCE. You see ROCE again. I mentioned ROCE again. Good. Keep this formula. We'll come and look at it. I can also write there net asset. Net asset or capital employed. Listen. Good. Let's go to the second type of ROCE. Let's go to number 5. Let me go to point 5. You should know the formula very well, how to calculate it. And please again, some of the questions, the examiner will not give you the profit before interest and tax. Look for it. Use the preparation of the financial statement to look for the profit before interest and tax. The next one is called return on equity or return on shareholders fund. Return on what? Equity. This is a special receipt. Let me word the case. I can also call it return on shareholders. Let me word the case. Return on shareholders capital employed. Have you seen? Return on equity. We are interested in only what? Equity. But equity, who gave the equity? Shareholders gave the equity. Good. So I can say that return on shareholders was capital employed. But if I clean these shareholders from there, then I'm referring to the bigger capital employed, not the one returned, not the one given to us by who? The shareholders. How we get it? Good. Now what happened is this. Let's look at the formula. This returns only on what? Equity. Like I said, if you plant mango, expect mango. Don't plant mango and be expecting banana. Not at all, not happen. So if you have invested equity, your return to must be in the form of equity. That is all. So what is the return available to equity holders? Good. And dividend, we normally get it in relation to the profit after tax. So they have return on the financial statement, the profit after tax. Financial holders, they are return profit after tax. All about equity. Just equity times 100. So this is a special type of proceed. But this proceed, the capital that the guy employed was equity. So return to must also be this. But you can employ all the type of capital, they must get all the type of return. That is all. Good. That is the formula. So from my last thing, corporate reporting level 3, the examiner asks them the distinction and asks them to calculate both receipt and return on capital. Both receipt and then return on equity. Good. Very topical. So basically, that is the profitability. Now, don't forget that the return, the word return, we can equate to profit. Finance people can also equate to what? Earnings. So the word return can be profit, can be earnings. That's why we have profit after tax, earnings after tax. We have earnings before interest and tax and co. So take note of that. We are now at profitability. Let's go to liquidity. So that when you are calculating the ratios, you know their relations very well, and then you will be fine. Liquidity. Liquidity or short-term solvency. Short-term solvency. How you can survive within a short run. How you can survive within a short run. That is all. Now, tell the examiner that this ratio number 1 assesses the credit worthiness of the entity, meaning that their ability to settle or ability to handle, ability to what? Their ability to settle. Settle their short-term debts or tell the examiner pressing liabilities, pressing liabilities. Liability that put pressure on them. Present obligation. Obligation as and when they fall due or as and when become what? Payable. Or as and when become crystallized. That is all. So ability to settle their present obligation or long trouble, short term. Short term. So short term obligation or personal obligation as and when they become payable or crystallized. And don't any debt. You know, when we're explaining liquidity, even though we're interested in short term, sometimes when the number liability become payable, they cannot pay it. If you owe somebody for 5 years, in the 5th year, starting from the 5th year, it becomes what? Current liability. You pick a loan of, let's say, 100,000, and tell the next order is that I'll pay you exactly in 4 years' time. So this loan for the first year should be non-current liability. In the 4th year, payment year, it tends to be from non-current to current. Good. So will you be able to handle such amounts? Amount converting from what? Non-current to what? Current. So I'm going to add that one to liquidity, part of the liquidity. So third examiner is the ability to settle their present or short-term obligation as when they fall due. And non-current liability as when they become what? Payable. And as well as non-current liability when they become what? Payable. As well as what? Non-current liability when they become payable or they become current. When they become payable or current. That's all. Now, liquidity is said to be good. Liquidity is said to be good. Third examiner. Point number 2. Liquidity is said to be good if the organization can generate enough current assets. So point number 2. Liquidity is said to be good if the entity can generate enough current assets to combat or to cover its short-term liabilities. If the entity can generate what? Enough. If the entity can what? Generate and convert. So if it can what? Generate. So if the entity can generate enough what? Current assets or convert the current asset into what? Into liquid assets. So if you can convert your current asset to liquid asset to cover your what? Short-term debt, to cover your short-term debt, or to pay your short-term debt as and when they forgive. That is all. That is about liquidity. Here, the higher the better, the reverse is true. But too much of it is bad. The higher the better. Okay, let's see something here. Here, originally, the ratios are only 2. Original. I'm giving you the original ratios. Some of the ratios, they swing. We've shared their ratios among the other ones. I'm glad that in our time, we can hit into that. Okay. The next step is the first 2. So let's look at the liquidity ratios. Okay? Liquidity ratios. Basically, there are 2. Number 1, current versus current. We call it current what? Ratio. Now, this current ratio, it talks about current. Compare your current assets against your current liability. The monetary version of the current ratio is called working capital. That's the working capital. Good. So the formula will be equal to your current aspect of your current liability is 1. Please never quote without it is 1. It's a relative measure, meaning that for every 1 Ghana cedi or every $1 of your current liability, how much current asset do you have? Oh, for every let's say $1 that we have, $1 current liability. Oh, I have, let's say, $2 current asset available. Oh, then I'm safe. I will get it. Good. So that is the current ratio. It's a relative to one of your current liability. How many current assets do you have? So organizations that can generate enough current assets to combat the current liabilities, you are fine. That is all. Good. So that is the current ratio. Perfectly. Now this ratio measures the gross current asset and your current liability. And basically you are done. Now let's see the benchmark. There's a benchmark or sector average. Now the benchmark is it's in a range 1.5:1 to 2.5:1. Please, this benchmark is for some selected industry. It's not for all the industries. So take note. And however, the examiner can change this benchmark. If you go to the exams and there's industrial average, sector average in the question, kindly check. Kindly check the sector average very well. That is the benchmark. Do not assume any benchmark. The examiner is giving you what a sector average. Good. Don't think this benchmark in if you go and see a benchmark already sitting in a question. No. If the question there's no benchmark in, and that we have to use what the sector average. Even this sector average have a limit. Why? This is for a mere trading company. Mere trading company. For instance, take a company like real estate developers. For them, their current asset is the land, the buildings, and other properties that are ready for sale, right? And they have little current liability. So imagine dividing all the lands that they are selling, their buildings. Let's say you get something like $1,200 billion versus their current liability of, let's say, just $25 million. You get more than this. So don't go and tell them that they are doing too bad or too well. So it's in line with the industry. This is not a benchmark for real estate industry. This is for mere trading company. Perfect. Now, if the company is not getting 1.5, then that means you are bad. From your going, you are doing what? Too bad. If you are getting more than 2.5, you are doing too good, which is so bad. Doing too good is bad to the extent that why should you have everything more than you need? Why can't you invest? Why should you go and buy more goods than you need? You are even calling a lot of risk. Protect the goods. People come and see some self-pay employees take some home. If the goods are not, they don't see and take some. Once they plenty, when they go somewhere, oh, this one there is left over, right? Let me take one home. If it's not, it's not there. So that is it. So take note when you are interpreting this particular ratio. Okay, even though the benchmark is this. Within this limit, the company is fine. And then that is all. So if you calculate and get something like, let's say, 1.2, what will be the section? Now, this 1.2 suggests that for every $1 cedi or $1 current liability, there's $1.2 worth amount of what current assets are available. So here, even though it's below the benchmark, it's quite okay. Even though below the benchmark, it's more than what, 1. It's a bit okay. It's meaning that it can pay. Fine, basically. Now, that is all. Let's go to the second ratio in the liquidity. Now, there's a particular section of how to calculate the ratios. I think I use Diamond and Science. Diamond and Science, how we can calculate their ratios. Kindly go to that one, and then you find it. The next type of ratio, we call it what? Pick or acid test ratio. It's a ratio that like quick bracket acid test ratio. So we can call it quick ratio. So quick ratio or acid test what ratio. That is the next one. Now, when you say quick ratio, the current ratio just measure the one I just calculated or went through. That one measure, can you pay your short-term debt? Yes or no? That is all. The current ratio will just answer the question. Can you pay? Yes or no? No long story. And the quick ratio will go further. How fast, how quick can you pay? The quick ratio will just explain to you how fast, how quick can you pay your short-term debt as money for you. The current ratio, so long as you can pay, fine. Some people, yes, let's say $1,000 bill, they can pay until like 5 months. If a whole company takes you 5 months to pay $1,000 bill or 1,000 Ghana cedis bill, then 20,000 bill, how many years are you going to use to pay? Imagine. So that is how we are going to analyze the company's liquidity, how the company can generate cash, or the company can convert. All what you are saying, your liquidity, there is example now. Oh, liquidity issues works on the company's ability to convert current assets into what? Its liquid assets, cash. How can they convert what? Their current assets into cash? Because if you can convert enough current assets into cash, you will have issued $20,000 bill within just a week or but it shouldn't be a big deal at all. It shouldn't be a big deal at all. That is, if you can convert enough cash, good. Let's see something here. So, in short, the quick ratio just acts or analyze how fast, how quick, how soon can the organization pay their short-term debts as and when they fall due. Just like if today, all the people are coming, all the people that owe you, they are coming, all your suppliers, all the current liability, don't stop, they are coming. How are you going to survive? That's the quick ratio. Today, as not talking to you, without selling any goods, without doing anything, all the people that you owe them, they are coming to your premises with their invoices to be paid. Without paying them, they are not going back to their premises. Can you be able to pay them? That's the answer that quick ratio is looking for, basically. Good. Now, let's see. So if we are analyzing quick ratio, what are you going to use to pay them? The current assets. What is the main composition of current assets? Number one, inventory, my receivable, and my cash, and what? Cash equivalent. Good. Now, these three items, each of them will be very difficult for me to convert into cash. As inventory, most often is the inventory for trading company. Because when the customer, when all these people are in and they're going to demand for money, can you let them wait? I have some goods, let me go and sell them. So when they buy, I'll come and pay you later. What if because they don't buy? They will not agree. So can you take that off? So don't go even tell them that the even like in fact even cause more annoyance. You owe me from day one. Today is the last day they do, they are telling me I'm not going to sell goods. So why can't you sell these goods when you purchase the item? By today they don't agree with the money. So that is the issue. So in calculating quick ratio, let's exclude any item that will delay us, that will slow us down from receiving the money. And looking at these three items, it is the inventory that will slow us down. So let's go to the formula. So if it is the inventory that will slow us down, then let's exclude the inventory, especially the closing inventory or the average inventory. So therefore, the formula is equal to so the current asset minus any item that will delay us from paying our short-term debt. So that's what inventory. All of us. So current liability is what 1. Here too, the benchmark is 1:1. And don't forget that this benchmark is still the trading company, not all the industry. Some few selected industries, not all of them. Perfect. Now, let me go further. If you go to the banks, banks normally does not even include receivable. Let me give you a critical example. When you have a check, you go to the bank. Your money, you send a check going to withdraw, and they'll tell you that wait, let's go and take somebody's owing us. Let's go and take the money before you can cash your check. Will it be possible? No. So banks, when they are calculating, they call it cash ratio. Cash what? Ratio. So they're going to include only cash and cash equivalent. Only cash. Divided by what? The deposit. Customer deposit or the current liabilities. So they will take cash over current what liability is what 1. They're not going to what include what the receivable because they will not have time to go and then chase their customer for the money before they can honor any payment they need to do. Now let me tell you some small story about this acid. This acid, Accountant, we like it. The reason is this. In military, the giant international military investigation teams, like the FBI and co. When they catch international thieves, I mean international thieves, you not the one that they like the roadside thieves. No. I mean international thieves, international criminals. That they have secrets, but they don't want to publicly voice it out. So what happened is this team, strong team, they will just look for acid anywhere. They'll not pour it on the guys, no. They'll just use a pen and dip the pen in the acid like this. And put the pen like this. Oh. So, like when they did that, this one is not torture. No. This one is a licensed torture. They have the license to do that. Now, all the truth within a second, automatically from head to toe, to come out. Any truth hiding somewhere, the truth will come out. So if this military team can use acid to extract truth within the shortest possible of time, then accountant is going to also use it. Within the shortest possible time, how can you pay the people? Look at how acid reacts. Very fast. So hurry, like quickly. As soon as the people walk to the doorstep, don't let them talk. Hand the money to them, let them go. Can you do that? You will have to wait. Maybe they're not coming for their money so that you'll be fine. You have to wait and let them talk first. No, don't let them talk. When you see someone old coming, don't let them talk. Just hand over. Unless that's the asset test ratio, basically. So take note in a calculation. We are done. Now, the interpretation can check the inventory level. Normally, it's due to inventory product. So now, if you calculate, and you are getting, let's say, 0.8 or going down, is very bad. If you get 1, it's okay. Now, if you are getting, let's say, 2, 3, 4 going, in fact, they are doing too well, it's very bad. They are doing too well, it's very bad. Why should you have a lot of liquid assets within your company? You have huge cash in your vote, huge cash in the cash still, huge cash. Why? That means there's a sign of what? Poor or bad working capital management. Why should you have enough cash more than you need? You know, if you have the cash, 1, you're very closer to robbers. 2, closer to thieves. If you have a lot of cash in the company, in fact, the cashier himself or the other people working there, because they know that no, we have a lot of cash there. So any listener that they get, they can enter there and then do things, change things. That is all. So you have a poor capital management. If this cash you could have what? Invested in what? Interest or income yielding investment and earn something for the organization rather than what? Keeping it within and protecting it again. Because you protect it. Look at the safe that you've acquired. You are not planning to even acquire another safe again because the cash is coming plenty. And now you have to get a lot of people around. So take note of this one. Now let's go to the next one, which is activity ratios. That ratios, in fact, since we come on this earth, it didn't work at all. You share all his ratios to other people's own. So I'm giving you the original ratios. So when I'm done, I'll tell you the sharing. How we work this better. Let's go to activity ratios. We call it activity or efficiency. It talks about risks, okay? That's what we call operating risks. Just analyze the operating risks of the entity. Operating what? Risks. That is all. Operating risks. Now, these ratios analyze 3 items. Number 1, if you are explaining activity ratios, your first sentence, tell the examiner, these ratios analyze the organization's ability to utilize what? The resources that they have. Utilize the resources. For 2 reasons. resources for two reasons. So they have ability to utilize the resources for two reasons. Number one, resources to generate what? To generate cash and sales, or sales and what? Number three, cash. That is all. So activity or efficiency is about how you are going to utilize your resources. When I talk about resources, don't forget your assets or your net assets. How you utilize them well to generate enough cash for the organization. That is all. So if this one is talking about sales, then there's a profitability there. If this one is talking about cash, there's a liquidity there. So in effect, all the activity ratio, you share them among profitability and liquidity. Good. And I'll tell you how we do the sharing. Okay. So let's start with the ratios that fall under this. The ratios are a bit many, but we look at them. The ratios are a bit many. There are many over here, but we summarize them. And can you watch all the ratio videos, especially the initial stage 1, 2, 3, up to the fourth one. So there's some vital analysis. Why you select some few ratios and then the other. I did some few analysis there. A combination of the ratios that you should probably use them. Good. So basically, that is the first ratio on the list is called the first ratio on the list. I'm going to look out for the. Okay, so the first ratio on the list is called inventory turnover. Inventory turnover. Inventory turnover. That is all. When I mention inventory turnover, we have it in two folds, period and times. So that's number one. A. Inventory turnover simple means how long or how many times does it take you to replace your goods? How long does it take you to replace your goods? And how many times does it take you to replace your goods in a year? So how long does it take you to replace your goods? When you buy the goods, how long does it take you to sell? It will determine how soon you can generate money. If you buy like something like item today, you're going to sell it in, let's say, 180 days time. It means that you went in terms of cash generation there, no, like bulldozers. You buy a bulldozer. For the whole year, nobody can even ask you the price of it. If you're not in a good market, good. So take note of that. So inventory turnover, basically, the formula will be as follows. We have it in period. If it's in period, that examiner is equal to the average inventory all over the credit sales. If credit sales is not there, just the sales revenue. Credit sales. If there's no credit sales, use what? Just the sales revenue. Sales revenue times the period. Yeah, the period can be in days, weeks, and months. In this, the period can be in what? Days, weeks, and months. So usually, or most often, it's in what? Days. If it's in days, can you use 365 days if you are not informed? If it's in days, you can use what? 365 days. If it's in days. If it's in months, 12 months. If it's in week, 52 weeks. That is all. There's not always 365 days. Check. It can be a month. Okay. That is it. Even in days, some examiner will tell you, oh, this company have 360 days. Please, don't tell the examiner that we have 365. Even people thought that, oh, this one, if you are in 2000, it is a leap year. Then don't do that. Once the examiner has given me that this company have 360 days in a year, can we use 360 days? Good. So take note of that. That is all. Now let's do something. Now, how do you find average inventory? Average inventory is nothing but your open inventory plus the closing divided by what? 2. That is all. Average inventory is equal to the open plus closing divided by 2. However, if the open inventory is not given, don't assume that it's equal to what? 0. How? I'll give an example. Open inventory is not given. Do not assume it's equal to what? 0. For that case, can we use the closing inventory as what? As the average. So tell the examiner, where the open inventory is not given to you, the closing inventory becomes what? The average inventory. So take note. Okay. Let me back this with an illustration. Let's take the same question that we saw, piece limited. So let's go back to our question. Piece limited. Let us look at the average inventory. Let's go. I can see inventories. So I can see 2012, 2011. Good. Now, if we go to the inventories, 2012 is 147,000. 2011 is 118,500. That's on the financial position. Good. Now, in 2012, comfortably, we can find the average. How do you find the average? Is it open? Open becomes, that's the 118,500 plus the closing inventory, which is 147,000, all divided by 2. That's perfect. Now let's go to 2011. Try and see if you can find for the average. If in 2011, the open inventory is not given, no 2010. So we cannot look at it, right? So we can only pick this as what? And do not divide the 118 by 2. No. Just pick the 118 as what? The average inventory. Move on. However, because here you are not able to determine the average, in 2012 too, even though you can find the average, ignore the average and pick what? The closing inventory for 2012. So in short, the closing inventory for 2012 will be used as what? Average, even though you can cover the average. Because 2011, we'll not be able to find the average. Make sure that they're on the same base before you can compare. You cannot find average for 2012 and not use just closing rate for 2011. So not much. Make sure they're of the same base so they can compare them. So take note of that. That's all. Let's continue the game. So now, issue of opening and closing average, we are done. Let's go to method 2. Say the method up 2, right? We have it in times. Times. Just find the formula upside down. Find the formula upside down. That is all. Find the formula upside down. And then that is all. That's in times. In times, it should be like this. In times, it should be credit sales or the sales all over average inventory. Don't multiply by anything, no. We don't multiply by what? Anything. So don't multiply by, the answer is in times. So if you get, let's say 4, just write 4 times. Now let's do something here. In periods, the shorter the days, the better, right? Because it takes you shorter time to sell the goods. So here, the shorter the better, the reverse is true. That is in what? In periods. So if your inventory turnover days becoming shorter, that's good. Meaning that it takes you shorter period to sell your goods. But in times, the higher the better. So take note. In times, the higher the better, because times the whole year, how many times can you replace your inventory? Let me give you the ancient way of analyzing this. Now, in the olden days, some of the Egyptians and then our Greek ancestors, when they go to the market and they come, let me use this market. Anytime they go to the market, when they come home, They just put one stone somewhere, go to market, put one stone. So every time they go, they put a stone somewhere, put a stone somewhere. At the end of the day, they pick all the stones and count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this period, I went to the market 4 times. And that is how they can estimate their profit from. So that is the times. So in times, that one, the number of times you can go to the market, ideally, should equate your profit. So the person that can go to the market plenty times, on average, you can make what? The highest profit. So that's why I say if you can go plenty times, that's far better. Don't forget that this one comes with limitation. What if you are selling water? Someone is selling gold. You can go like 200 times. The person go one, the person have divided his money already. So take note of these issues. But if you are selling the same thing, here we cannot do what we call cross business reference. Only the same business. If all of us in gold business, the person go 5 times and go 6 times, it's still the same. So take note of that.
If your price is higher than.
Now, let me tell you some secrets. In 2012, I see exam question. Something happened. We calculated ratios for them, and then for them to repeat the ratios calculated. And then the inventory days, instead of us writing, normally if it's in times, the time is too small. The days is higher than the times. So normally if it's in days, let's say 30 days. But they give them 2.2. So the thought is 2.2 days. That means the times. So take note of the times. So this is the formula for times, this is the formula for what? The days, and then that is all. Let's continue with the game. The rest of the formulas, write them plenty, and then run away. Our time is almost up. Continue again. So let's go to number 2. Receivable days. Number 2. Receivable collection. Collection what? Period. That one talks about how long does it take out to what? Receive our goods after sale. So how long does it take out? So how long the period? So right from sale, how many days? What's the period? Duration. So that one is equal to, as usual, average receivable all over. But here, what will result receivable is when you sell on credit. So credit what? Sales times your period. If it's in days, 365. If it's in month, 12. If it's in week, 52. If there's no credit sales, company sales, total sales revenue. That's all. Okay, so basically, that is the end of this one. The rule of average still applies. Average is equal to open plus closing. Where the open is not given, don't assume that it's equal to 0. Just pick the closing one as a good representative. That is all. Here the benchmark is what? 30 days. 30 days. The benchmark is 30 days. Good. Basically, that is it. Then you go to payable, payment period. Now to the same show. How long does it take you to pay your suppliers and when you pay them? Now, let me mention something small about this too. But let me get a formula. After the formula, I'll say something small, then we probably end here. When we talk about the payable payment period, it's equal to average payable. Now here we are interested in average trade payable. It's about trade payable, not account payable. Both the receivable too. It must be trade receivable, not account receivable. Can it take all other receivable from it and then left with what the trade? That's what you're interested in. Here, all divided by what? Credit purchases. Credit purchases times your period or 365. If there's no credit purchases, only use what you call total or purchases. If there's no total purchases, then can you use the word cost of sales? That is all. Is the that we want them. Now, what happens is this. Here, the benchmark is 45 days. 45 days. That's the benchmark. Now, with the receivable collection period, that one, the shorter, in fact, the better. Because when you sell on credit, it must take the customer short period come and pay you. That's a good one. What about payable? The longer, the better. Yes. But too much of it is bad. If you take you, or if you're giving your customer short time to pay, then it means that a time will come, they'll not buy from you again. Well, oh, they want somewhere that they can take their time to pay small. How we get it? Good. Payment periods. If you take too long to pay your suppliers too, even though it's good to you, right, you're rather decreasing your good image, your goodwill. You're losing your credit worthiness. A time will come, they'll not sell to you. Because when you buy, it takes you a longer period for you to pay. So take note of this. Good. So that is the payment period. Now, with the suppliers, the higher or the longer the period, the better it is. That is all for this. Okay. Then we have what we call CCC. Then we are now in the cash section. Then we go to the sales or the profit. Number 5, I call it CCC, cash conversion cycle. We also call it net operating cycle. Net operating cycle. We can also call it net working capital cycle. We also call it cash operating cycle. So anyone that have operating working capital and cycle inside, that is it. Now here, this ratio is very important. It explains how long does it take you to recoup all your investment in inventory through sale. So after you have acquired the goods, how long does it take you to recoup your investment? Here, I might not be able to go detail, but the previous lecture videos, but everything has been explained well in it. So to gain more or to get the genesis of this cash operating cycle, you can visit that one and then you'll be fine. Okay, what happened is this. This cash operating cycle, maybe you acquired goods, it's an investment. So investment in inventory, the goods you've acquired, how long will it take you for you to probably recoup all your investment, the amount spent on these goods? That's the cash conversion cycle or net operating cycle. What happened is this. Then the formula is equal to, I'm not talk long, inventory days plus receivable days minus what? The payable days. That is all. So, in fact, that is the working capital cycle. Good. Get to the shorter the better, the reverse is true. It should take you short time to recoup all your investment. Not that if you buy item, how long does it take you to sell? And after selling, how long does it take you to receive your money and finally pay your suppliers? Then some of the organization, in fact, most of the organization, they pay their suppliers before they get their money. Yes, they pay their suppliers before they get the money. Most of the organization. For instance, if it takes you, let's say, 30 days to sell the goods, and then when you sell to, it takes you 35 days for you to receive the money. Already, how many days? 65 days before you can receive the money. No, the supplier is giving you, let's say, 45 days. Meaning, like 30 days, you have disposed of the goods. There are another 35 days. Meanwhile, before these 35 days come, the supplier for his money. Long ago, you pay the money. And now your funds, your money has now probably, ask somebody to tell you, now you have locked up your funds in inventory or in the sales until the people probably remit the funds back to you. What happened is this. That is why people rely on what short-term overdraft to pay these suppliers, because before the 45 days, in fact, the 45 days will come before your 65 days. So within 45 days, look at money somewhere, anywhere, try and pay the supplier so that after the 65 days, you get the money, pay back the overdraft facility with any charges or the cost of getting the finance, and then you move on. Good. So basically, that is it. Now I'm done with the cash. Let me go to the last section of the day. Then left 2 key ratios. The rest we the ratio. The sixth one is net asset turnover. Net asset turnover. Net asset turnover. That's the sixth ratio and activity efficiency. Net asset turnover. This net asset turnover basically analyze the ability of the entity to utilize these resources to generate enough for sales for the organization. How the organization uses its resources, especially the assets at its disposal, to generate what? Enough sales. That is all. Not some organization, the assets is like this. These are assets, but they are sales, something like this. Some organization too, their asset is like this, but the sales is something like this. At least it's okay. But your asset big, sales small. That one no. So that means they have issue with our net assets. It all depends on one. Maintenance, routine maintenance of your assets, replacement. Some organization they wait for their vehicle to lock on the road before they wear it. Something I need to get routine maintenance so that at least every time the asset give you the best. But the wait for the asset to lock them somewhere, you know, it's always every day, every time the emergency situation for the asset to bring them down. And the organization also, in fact, recent times, most giant organizations, almost every 3 years, they change their equipment, their PCs every 3 years. It makes sure that every time these pieces are giving us what? The best. Because if it becomes too old, in fact, sometimes it delay. And then the maintenance cost, when asset becoming old, the maintenance cost goes up. Compare brand new car to like 5 years this car, or even 10 years this car, and see the maintenance cost. Good. So that is it. Now, the formula is equal to, it talks about the ability to generate sales with your net assets. So it must be your sales over your net asset. That's all. Sales over what? Net assets. Good. Now we have other versions of this. Now I'm not talking about. Normally come with it formulas, so I don't talk about it. Something like total asset turnover. That becomes sales over total assets. Non-current asset turnover. Sales about non-current assets. Another one, expenses to sales ratio. Expenses by sales. Oh, operating cost to sales ratio. But those ones I don't talk about them. But when they come with the formula, fine. Now, this answer is in times. Don't worry about anything. If you get 5, just add time to it. Like this. Times. Basically. Okay. Now, finally, let me provide some analysis here. Before I move on, I'm in the first, but it should be 3, or it should be 4, and there must be 5. So, the first 4, ratios. But we add them to liquidity. So they are part of what? Liquidity. So because it talks about cash. All this one talks about how you can generate cash. How you can generate cash to pay, sell the goods. Then this one talks about sales. So we add it to profitability. So don't be surprised that all this in some materials or some books, all this falls under what? Liquidity. And this and the one beneath like expenses to sales ratio falls under what? Profitability. Don't be surprised because all the activity ratios have been shared. So that is it. Now, that is net assets can be part of profitability. Now let's see something. In that case, when it go, it's going to add up to the receipt. Now, receipt, let's come back to receipt. It's equal to your operating profit margin times the net asset. That's all, net asset turnover. Let's see something. What is the operating profit margin? It's equal to the profit before interest and tax over what? Sales, right? Times 100. Now let's multiply this one by what? The net assets. Net assets is equal to what? Sales over what? Net asset, right? Okay. Do the cancellation. Sales probably have to cancel sales. So finally, it's now equal to what? Profit before interest and tax all over net what? Net asset. Now we say net asset is the same as what? Capital employed. So you are explaining this. Don't forget about what? Your operating profit margin, how the company make money, and then sales. That's the how the company what utilizes resources. How the company make money or make profit and also utilizes resources. That's the end of the first show. What level 2? Level the market position and solvency or year. You can use the previous video to go through and start the ratio calculation. And I know probably any if there are no questions. Good. Don't forget to subscribe and then share with your friends. You can also join us when you're solving questions. Yes. Good.